Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhujakacharya Astar Sata Śrīmad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai. Gaura Premananda. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 1, Genealogical Table of the Daughters of Manu, Text 1. Maitreyaḥ, uvāca, manos, iti, śatarūpāyāṁ, tisraḥ, kanyāś, jajñire, ākūtir, devahūtiś, prasūtir, iti, viśrutāḥ, maitreyaḥ uvāca, manos tu śatarūpāyāṁ, tisraḥ kanyāś jajñire, ākūtir devahūtiś, prasūtir iti viśrutāḥ, maitreyaḥ uvāca, manos tu śatarūpāyāṁ, tisraḥ kanyāś jajñire, ākūtir devahūtiś, prasūtir iti viśrutāḥ, maitreyaḥ uvāca, manos tu śatarūpāyāṁ, tisraḥ kanyāś jajñire, ākūtir devahūtiś, prasūtir iti viśrutāḥ, Vaishnavis, uvāca, śatarūpāyāṁ, Maitreya uvāca. The great sage Maitreya said, manoḥ of Svāyambhuva Manu, śatarūpāyāṁ, and his wife śatarūpā, tisraḥ, 3, kanyāś, daughters also, jajñire, gave birth, ākūtiḥ, named Ākūti, devahūtiḥ, named devahūtiḥ, cha, also, prasūtiḥ, named prasūtiḥ, iti, thus, viśrutāḥ, well known. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. Śrī Maitreya said, Svāyambhuva Manu begot 3 daughters and his wife Śatarūpā, and their names were Ākūti, Devahūti and Prasūti. Purport. First of all, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Sri Śrīmad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Gosvāmī Prabhupada, by whose order I am engaged in this Herculean task of writing commentary on the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam as the Bhaktivedanta purports. By his grace, we have finished 3 cantos already, and we are just trying to begin the 4th canto. By his divine grace, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Caitanya, who began this Krishna consciousness movement of bhāgavata-dharma 500 years ago, and through his grace, let us offer our obeisances to the 6 Gosvāmīs, and then let us offer our obeisances to Rādhā and Kṛṣṇa, the spiritual couple who enjoy eternally in Vrindavan with their cowherd boys and damsels in Vrajabhumi. Let us also offer our respectful obeisances to all the devotees and eternal servitors of the Supreme Lord. In this 4th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, there are 31 chapters, and all these chapters describe the secondary creation by Brahma and the Manus. The Supreme Lord himself does the real creation by agitating his material energy, and then by his order, Brahma, the first living creature in the universe, attempts to create the different planetary systems and their inhabitants, expanding the population through his progeny, like Manu and other progenitors of living entities who work perpetually under the order of the Supreme Lord. In the first chapter of this 4th canto, there are descriptions of the 3 daughters of Svāyambhuva Manu and their descendants. The next 6 chapters describe the sacrifice performed by King Daksha and how it was spoiled. Thereafter, the activities of Maharaj Dhruva are described in 5 chapters. Then, in 11 chapters, the activities of King Prithu are described, and the next 8 chapters are devoted to the activities of the Pracheta kings. As described in the first verse of this chapter, Svāyambhuva Manu had 3 daughters, named Ākūti, Devahūti and Prasūti. Of these 3 daughters, one daughter, Devahūti, has already been described, along with her husband, Kardama Muni, and her son, Kapila Muni. In this chapter, the descendants of the first daughter, Ākūti, will specifically be described. Svāyambhuva Manu was the son of Brahma. Brahma had many other sons, but Manu's name is specifically mentioned first because he was a great devotee of the Lord. In this verse, there is also the word cha, indicating that besides the 3 daughters mentioned, Svāyambhuva Manu had 2 sons. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Śrī Gurave Namaha Śrī Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Śrī Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare So Srila Prabhupada's major literary contribution was his commentary on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the Bhagavad Purana. And we're having class in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam every day. It's such an important work. It's interesting that today the devotees have Srila Prabhupada's translations and commentaries, purports, up to the beginning of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. And Srila Prabhupada's disciples continued that tradition. What Srila Prabhupada did is revolutionary. Up until his version of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the tradition of commentary had been confined to India, to Sanskrit commentators, basically. But Srila Prabhupada globalized the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and the commentarial tradition of it. You know, he mentions that he's writing a commentary. I mean, sometimes when we speak about Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam, we make reference to the commentaries by the acharyas. But Srila Prabhupada's translation and purports are equally a commentary, a bhashyam. So in the Sanskrit literature, there's a definition of what a commentary does. There are 5 purposes for a commentary. One is to divide up the words. In Sanskrit, the letters more or less run together, and how those strings of Devanagari letters are to be split up into words is something that a commentator does. And Srila Prabhupada does that in his transliteration. He distinguishes the different words of the commentary. And then second purpose of a commentary is to define the words. And Srila Prabhupada does that in his synonyms. He defines each word. The third purpose of a commentary is to express the words in the context of the verse and the chapter and the whole work. And Srila Prabhupada does that in his translation. The Sanskrit words can have many different meanings. So he gives the proper meaning of each word and then arranges the words in the English language so that each word is properly expressed in whole sentences. And then another purpose of a commentary is to give grammatical considerations. Just like in this purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about the word cha, saying that it indicates that in addition to the three daughters, that Svāyambhuva Manu also had two sons. So the final purpose of a commentary is to address possible objections and questions that come up. And Srila Prabhupada accomplishes that in his purports. So it was revolutionary what Srila Prabhupada did. He gave the text, he expanded it into the English language, and he also globalized the commentarial tradition so that we have devotees in the Western world, the world outside India, who are carrying on this tradition that he established. And not only is this being done in an academic way, Srila Prabhupada founded a whole movement based on the teachings of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Like we're having this class every day, we're studying it, we're living our lives according to the Bhagavatam principles, so it's not just some academic thing. He established a society of devotees that is actually living the teachings of the Bhagavatam and distributing this knowledge widely throughout the world. His Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master asked him to do this in the English language, but from the English translation that Srila Prabhupada gave, it's gone into just literally hundreds of other languages, as Savas will know. So, it's very extraordinary what he did. And another thing I recall from reading this is that in the beginning days of the movement, we had basically the first canto. When I joined in around 1973-74, the second canto of the Bhagavatam was available. And I awaited with great anticipation the appearance of each volume of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Like now we have First Canto, Second Canto, Third Canto, Fourth Canto, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, Eighth, Ninth. Then we didn't have them. So a book would come out from the BBT. I remember, I'd be in a temple, the BBT truck would, like in the Miami temple, the BBT truck would roll in and deliver copies of the next volume, Third Canto, Volume 1, Third Canto, Volume 2, Fourth Canto. And my life would stop when those books came in, because I would have to read every single word of them. It'd be like a marathon sort of thing, because it was all new information coming from the pure devotee. So, like I said, my life would just stop as soon as I got my hand on one of those books. Kind of entered into a state of samadhi. So, and I was sometimes surprised, when I was an assistant treasurer in the Miami temple, like in 1975, 76. And I would have on my desk one of the new volumes of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and then maybe there would be some newspaper in the trash can. And sometimes a devotee would come in and pick up the newspaper from the trash can and not pay attention to the book. I just found that amazing. So, this is Srila Prabhupada's great gift to us. And he didn't even come to the Western world until he had 3 volumes of the Bhagavatam printed, his famous Delhi Bhagavatam books. And I was once in New Delhi a few years ago, and I decided to visit the places where he himself did the printing of these books. Because in the book, I have one of the Delhi Bhagavatam volumes. I don't have the complete set, but somehow or other one came into my hands. And in the front of it, it lists the address of the printer, OK Printers in New Delhi. And in various places it's mentioned the shops where Srila Prabhupada would go and buy paper and take it to the printer. He was very hands-on with the whole process. So it was kind of a pilgrimage. I went to Old Delhi, to the place where he was living. There was a small temple there where he had a room where he would do his editing and proofreading for the printing of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And I would visit there's still that part of town, they still have paper dealers that sell paper for printing. So one of the shops where he would buy paper to print his books is still there, so I went and visited that. And the address of the place where the OK printing shop was, where the text of the books was printed, is the actual company isn't there anymore, but the place is still there. And the cover, the Delhi Bhagavatam volumes had a color cover, so that was printed somewhere else at Rādhā Press, and I visited that place as well. And then there were little shops around that would take the printed pages and cut them and bind them. So that was another step in the process. When the pages were printed, they had to be cut and put together, sewn together, and bound. So the shops are still there where they do that kind of thing. And then when the books were printed, Srila Prabhupada printed one volume of the First Canto at a time. Then he would sell them and go to the bookshops. So I visited some of the bookshops that he went to and personally sold books. So Srila Prabhupada's Bhāgavatam is a revolutionary work. Certainly caused a revolution in my life and in the lives of many others as well. So actually, one place where Srila Prabhupada sold his original Delhi Bhagavatams was the United States Embassy in New Delhi. They had a program where they would acquire Indian books and then distribute them to different libraries in the United States, among other places. So Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatams actually came to America before he did. And once I was doing some college programs, devotees would go to colleges with chanting parties and book tables. So I was at Cal State, LA, and I went to the library there, and I was looking around to see if the devotees had any books there, and I saw on the shelves the 3 volumes of the Delhi Bhagavatams, and I opened them up, and on the inside cover was stamped a little stamp mark from U.S. Embassy, book program, so I thought, I'm going to come back here and get these books. So I went back to the temple and I just mentioned to a couple of my devotee friends, hey, guess what I saw in the library at Cal State LA? A full set of Srila Prabhupada's Delhi Bhagavatams. And one of the devotees said, excuse me, I got to go somewhere. So he went and got the books. I kind of missed out on getting a set of them. So the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, idam bhagavata namas Puranam Brahma Samhitam, that the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the literary incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Śrīmad-Bhāgavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Parayar Ishvara. With the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, if you have the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, what is the need for any other work? Such an important scripture. So we're very fortunate to be the recipients of this great gift of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And Srila Prabhupada is paying his obeisances to his spiritual master, on whose order he is working on what he called this Herculean task of writing commentary on the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam as the Bhaktivedanta purports. So he engaged his disciples in perpetuating this work and keeping these books in print and living according to the principles described in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. I mean, here we are practically every day. We have discussions among ourselves based on this book. I mean, what to speak of the formal classes. So it's such a revolutionary presentation. He says in his preface to the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it's meant to inspire a spiritual revolution in the life of a misdirected society. So I'll stop there. Any questions or comments? Let's see if they get it.
In Krishna consciousness possible for me in this lifetime? And first of all, what is perfection? And second is, should I be ambitious that, I want to finish my business in this material world in this lifetime? Or, this is just the first step and then maybe in a few lifetimes something will happen?
So the two questions are, is it possible for you or me to become Krishna conscious in this lifetime? And the second one, should we be eager to do that? Get out of the material entanglement? Well, it's a question of what we really are, of understanding what we are. Jivara Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nitya Das. So if we understand that, then of course we want to be our real selves in this lifetime, because otherwise what are we? We're just falsely identifying with something that we are not, namely the material body, and we're chasing after things that will never satisfy us. So we're kind of an illusion chasing a hallucination. Not a very satisfying position to be in. So, yes, we should desire to come to our proper state of consciousness, which ultimately is Krishna consciousness. And whether we do it in this lifetime, it's possible. So many examples are given in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam of sometimes it may take more than one life. Like I've been reading the story of Maharaj Bharat. He made a lot of advancement, a lot of progress, but sometimes it's stated that the process of Krishna consciousness is like a razor's edge. If you're not careful with the razor, you can cut yourself. So he wasn't very careful. He became attached to a deer and because of that attachment, he fell away from his strict practice of Krishna consciousness and had to take birth as a deer. One birth. He didn't have to take many, many births. So it is possible to achieve in one lifetime if one's careful. Prabhupada.
Thank you for a wonderful class and sharing with us all those personal realizations. I just wanted to add a little something to something you said about how when the book came out, everything stopped, and you would read it. In addition to that, we used to distribute them. When the books came out, of course, everybody would grab a copy and read it, and the book distributors would then immediately go out and distribute that volume of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And it didn't matter what it was about, because devotees, I was reminded when I heard Drutakarma talking about that, we had this faith and conviction that anything coming from Srila Prabhupada, it's coming at any book, it's going to be beneficial for anybody who gets it, because it's pure transcendental sound vibration. In other words, the benefit wasn't that whether they could understand it or not, or they could relate to the information. It's pure transcendental sound vibration. They can get a Fifth Canto. It didn't make a difference. Whatever book they got, Lord Caitanya in 5 features, or it didn't matter. Pure transcendental sound vibration. They were going to get purified as a result of having that book and reading it, even if they couldn't make complete sense out of it or like that. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, it was true because when the Chaitanya Charitamrita came out, we had the volume 1, which is barely you can carry it. I remember we were at the airport in Atlanta and we were distributing the first volume of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we had them stacked up, and we were actually distributing them. So it was incredible. I mean, how someone could come by and just take a first volume of Chaitanya Charitamrita.
And we didn't feel like we were ripping them off.
No.
We had that faith. It's pure transcendental sound vibration. Whatever they read, we're going to get their consciousness, going to get purified as a result of reading whether they understand it or not.
I remember that Atlanta temple at that time, they had to purchase, each temple had to purchase a huge quantity of that particular volume of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I remember we must have had about 100 cases. And they filled up the whole basement. And we were distributing that book for like a year.
Somebody there?
Just to follow up on what Prabhu just said, at one point up in Seattle we ran out of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatams, but we had a full basement of Chaitanya Charitamritas and we were distributing them, all the different volumes. And at one point, I think I've told this story before, we met someone at the airport who told us that he ran a youth center up in Alaska in a small village, and that at the youth center they had all of our Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Chaitanya Charitamritas. And Śrīmad-Bhāgavatams, of course, and he gave us each $100 and took more books.
Yeah. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. You're welcome. Sanskrit. Is there anybody named Vedavit? Sanskrit, Vedavit.
Thank you for nice, like it's a miracle, like how all this
is that devotees are now distributing whole sets of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is so amazing. Of course.
My daughter and wife are coming. I want to take
Greet them.